Welcome back, everybody, to another hashtag hype session. This is being simulcast on LinkedIn as well as the Startup Hype Man Instagram TV account with the audio ripped on Startup Hype Man, the podcast. Today on this hype session, I welcome Alex Kurkowski. Alex is the founder of Tellinga. Alex, my man, welcome to our hype session.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here and tell you guys a little bit more about Tellinga.
So you've got a really interesting product and platform here. I don't want to give it away too soon, so I'll just let you take over here. Tell us about what Tellinga is.
Okay, so Tellinga officially stands for telling a story, right? And it was birthed out of the MBA program at Rice University. What I realized is already having a full-time job in the pharmaceutical industry and then just starting Rice as a pretty much full-time student, I started to really not have a lot of time with friends and family anymore. And it was a really challenging thing just to hang out with my brother or spend time with my mom and dad. And so as I noticed these relationships starting to slide, I started to send them little hand-drawn pieces of art through the mail. I've always been a huge fan of snail mail. I used to write letters to my grandma whenever I was younger. I used to write letters to folks whenever I was back in college, whenever I was a little bit younger. So I've always kind of looked forward to checking the mail, getting stuff, the traditional snail mail way instead of email. And so to keep up with them, I would reminisce, certain periods from our past. And one moment was whenever I was with my brother when we were at the Kansas City Chiefs training camp. And he was 16 years old and he was yelling out at Tony Gonzalez, who was the tight end at the time, Tony, can you please sign my autograph? Can you please sign my autograph? And he was treating himself and treating the moment as if he was like a 6-year-old boy, where he was already like 16 and shaving at the time. It was the most ridiculous thing ever. So I started to rip on him. And then over time, my family started to rip on him. So I drew a little sketch of him, reminiscing that period, reminiscing that moment from our past. And then my mom, she used to call herself Queen Mamidala. And that's from the movie Star Wars, Queen Amidala. And so she was trying to find a way to relate to my brother and I. So I drew a picture of her kind of as Queen Mamidala, reminiscing, that moment from our past. And so I would send it off to them just as kind of a fun thing that they could look forward to, checking their mailbox and getting it, and looking at it and laughing at it and, sending me a text or calling me afterwards and letting me know that they received that little goofy piece of art, just to kind of stay connected on a fun level with our mailbox. And then I mentioned that to a friend of mine at Rice, and that friend told me that I should perhaps turn this into a business. We were both in an entrepreneurship class at the time at Rice, and I said, you know what, that sounds like a perfect opportunity for me to really practice a lot of the stuff that's been preached to me and taught to me at Rice. And so that was essentially the birth of Tellinga. And I know I'm talking a little bit much right now, but to keep going, and officially what Tellinga is and what we do is we send personalized greeting cards that tell your story, right? Officially how it works is, this is usually purchased as a gift item from one person to the next. And what a person would do is, let's say, it's your birthday and I want to buy you a birthday gift. So I log on to tellinga.com, I select start a story. And then from there, I get to choose a certain story length, whether it be a 1-week story, 2-week story, or 1-month story. After that, I get to choose the story rating and genre, whether it be G through rated R on the rating, and then action, adventure, comedy for the genre. And then I provide a little loose description and I say, Rajiv, you are a evil alien trying to take over the world, and Alex, your best friend, is a superhero trying to stop you. And let's say that you have a brother and I plug in your brother into the story and he's my sidekick and we're both trying to stop you, the evil alien, from taking over the world. And then I upload a photo of you, I upload a photo of me and your brother perhaps, and then I hit submit. And from there, all of that information goes off to a team of 25 contracted artists across the nation. They take all of that information and they then begin building out that story. They begin hand drawing out that story and snail mailing it out piece by piece over that 1 week, 2 weeks, or 1 month. So to recap, let's say it's your birthday, I buy you a gift. I provide that crazy description, rated G, action, adventure, comedy. I choose comedy. And then I upload all the photos. All that goes to the artist, and then they send out, art day by day. And so let's say the first, piece of mail is, hand drawn. It's going to be you plotting to take over the world, right? And then every other day, there's another piece of art that comes out that tells part of that story. And so it's kind of like taking a, picture book or like a movie essentially, and translating it to paper and then snail mailing it out piece by piece. And the whole point of this is to kind of tap back into the tangible and physical and real side of life, old school style of life, and that a lot of folks these days are getting everything digital, cell phone, social media. They're getting stuff on, it's everything's involving a screen, and things such as your mailbox have been somewhat forgotten, right? So I'm kind of trying to tap back into that old school, physical, real side of life and get people to look forward to checking their mail. Whereas most people check their mail these days maybe once or twice a week, right? They're checking their email all the time. They check their mail once or twice a week. So I'm really trying to create excitement that whenever, they get home after a hard work day, they can look forward to getting something, sentimental, and something that's really going to put a smile on their face, and they're going to really receive it in a different way versus all of the, standard stuff that we get today.
You are tuned in to an official hype session with Alex Kurkowski, founder of Tellinga, personalized greeting cards that tell your story. So Alex, where I see a lot of application for this in the business world in particular is in incorporating this into a sales process. And what I mean by that is what some people will do is maybe if they have a good meeting, they will send a thank you note in the mail to that prospect, to that potential buyer. And I think, as a sales process maybe gets more evolved and developed and you realize a legitimate opportunity, or hell, maybe if you want to make a splash, make an impact and stand out right off the bat, have Tellinga generate this custom story of how, I don't know, maybe your company is going to work with that buyer and how it's going to be this amazing superhero finish, something like that. That's what I think an amazing application, at least for this audience, would be. Do you see that working here as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Taking a step back and looking at sales, most all sales so far have been generated from word of mouth, referrals from previous customers. But even with those previous customers, the sales were essentially generated from the press that we've received, whether it be local TV, we're on NPR, radio, traditional print, whatever it may be that, I'm on the podcast with you, and customers really dig what we're trying to accomplish and what we're doing. So a lot of sales have come that way, right? Where, after I receive or something that receives those sales will, peak because, obviously the press is out there and they're reading about Tellinga, but then they'll trough after just a few days. And then another piece of press will come out and they'll peak and then trough after a few days. And so when you bring up, that particular vertical and approaching companies B2B that want to say thank you for the business that was brought on, that's actually what I'm targeting or started targeting this week. That it took me a while to kind of build out Tellinga. And right whenever I thought that I was out of this proof of concept prototype phase, I get sucked right back in and kept building and building on operations. I'm a salesman by blood, and all I've wanted to do is just go out and sell this and sell this and sell this. But I kept getting sucked back into this prototype proof of concept phase. But now that prototype proof of concept phase is now, I would say, officially put to bed and put to rest, I can focus on sales. But the press has been great, but it hasn't been consistent. So what I've come to realize is that I need to target certain verticals. And what you bring up with B2B saying thank you from one company to the next, you're absolutely right. That's actually one of the target verticals. And to add on top of that, it's also been retirement communities. I'm looking at targeting, as well as hospitals and military bases, and just thinking about, those those markets you're thinking about, how people are staying connected. Because what this brand's about is it's love and energy and passion, but it's a fun, quirky, kind of slightly almost weird. I can't believe I'm saying that traditional mail is weird, but slightly weird way to stay in touch with a loved one.
Well, and at Startup Hype Man, this brand here is all about how do you stand apart and stand out. And I think Tellinga is a fantastic way to do both of those things. Alex, where can our viewers find Tellinga?
At tellinga.com.
All right, tellinga.com. That's tellinga.com. Check it out right now. He is Alex Kurkowski, the founder of Tellinga. You have been watching a hashtag hype session with the video streamed on Instagram TV at Startup Hype Man and through my personal LinkedIn account, Raj Nation, and the audio available for you on Startup Hype Man, the podcast. Follow us on those platforms. And Alex Kurkowski and Tellinga, they are somebody you should know. Hype Man out, word up, and raise up.